Are you going to endorse Joe Biden if he runs for re-election?
Oh, there's plenty of time for the election. This is the problem with America right now. We start an election every time there's a cycle coming up.
Yeah, he's the leader of your party.
No, the bottom line is let's see who's involved. Let's wait until we see who all the players are. Let's just wait until it all comes out.
The problem with Manchin is that he's never going to go anywhere else beside where he is, because even if he were to switch to Republican side, Republican voters would never vote for him because he has a moderate record and because they don't trust him. Democrats are never going to advance him. So it's kind of a problem that he's got. Big problem that he has. And so he can't, I mean, if Democrats were smart, which I know, but if they were, they would run him. Who was the guy, Kane, who was the guy who ran, I want to say it was in 2012. He was the veteran who ran. And he was actually kind of a moderate. Maybe it was 2012, or maybe it was going into 2016. But he was kind of a moderate, and I always thought if Democrats were smart, they would get behind this guy. He was more of a classical liberal. He was he's very much it was not progressive. Anyway, They ended up choosing to go behind. They threw their weight behind who they ended up running with. But if Democrats were smart, they would actually run with Joe Manchin. They'd run him. He's a moderate. I don't agree with a lot of stuff that he's done. I'm mad at him over the big tax bill that he backed. But at the same time, he would actually get I think he would get a lot of Democrats. He'd pull a lot of moderates. Democrats aren't concerned about building a big tent, though. And here's the difference. At some point, this shifted between Democrats and Republicans. And I was actually thinking on a piece about this. I'm not sure when the flip happened, but it did at some point. They ended up, at some point, flipping. They ended up, exchanging places, Democrats and Republicans, in terms of how they approached coalition building, because Democrats used to want to build a coalition. They used to want all kinds of individuals under their masthead, for the lack of a better way to describe it. And they had a lot of people who thought differently about different things, but there were certain things in which they were united. And it was the right that was supposed to be siloed and singular. And now that's flipped. And there are a lot of people who felt that the Democrat Party, or the left really as a description at large, ended up shifting so far to the left that it kind of, now it sort of adjusted the entire system of political measure, and it left all of these people who were in the middle seemingly now identifying as kind of moderates, or even kind of, moderate to the right. They don't care about coalition building because they care only about obedience. Obedience to the narrative, lockstep on the issue. That's it. Do not ask questions. Do not suggest anything to the contrary. They are not concerned about common ground. Common ground, that is to them surrender and betrayal. Unfortunately, in a country where you have millions upon millions of people, millions of people living, and they come from all walks of life and they all think differently, I mean, you're not going to be able to get everything that you want. But that's not, they do not want that. They don't want any common ground. They just want what they want, and that's it. Anything else is a betrayal. So they are not ever going to consider running somebody like Manchin. And I don't even know if Manchin, people keep going, is Manchin, this is the time of the political cycle when all the people in media are like, oh, is so-and-so going to run? Is so-and-so going to run? Everyone looks like they're going to just ignore all these people. Manchin's not going to run. And even if he did, he wouldn't have a shot in hell because he wouldn't be able to get enough support on the right. And he wouldn't have any support on the left. That would affect fundraising. There's no way. It would absolutely just take him out at the knees. There's no way. But if they were smart, they would. If they were smart, they'd kick Joe Biden out and they'd put Joe Manchin in. They'd get rid of Kamala. If they were smart, Democrats would do that going into 2024, but they're not. I mean, that would be such, think about it for a minute. And I'm only, because this is, if they were smart, this would be a lot tougher. The biggest problems that we have are our own side. It's ourselves. Because the left is the left. They're always going to be the left. You can expect them to behave that way. It's the people who are not necessarily all, it's the people who aren't really about the purpose of the movement, which is to get left alone. There are a lot of people who want to ride that wave all the way to some kind of relevancy or power adjacency. And that's a real problem on the right. But if the left actually had more than, if they were smart, they would run Manchin. They would take out Biden. They would substitute Manchin in, with or without Kamala Harris. And Manchin would be a formidable, if they put all of their machinery behind him, you would get some big time donors. Democrats would have some major donors. He would get a lot of support, and he probably would have a lot of momentum down ticket. So he would be dragging a lot of people across the threshold in a lot of these Senate races, congressional races, and it would be a nightmare for the right. It would be an absolute nightmare. But they're not going to do it because he's not all on board with all the climate change stuff that they want. He's not on board with any of that. There's other things that, he isn't exactly wokeified. He's not on board with that. I mean, I think there's no way in hell I'd vote for him even if he were a Republican. He's not as petty as Mitt Romney, but the policies aren't much different.